My name is Tanya Curry, and this is this week's Acumen Media report. It's entitled, "The Politics of Dancing. Ramaphosa's Reputation Tanks by 80%. I have good news and I have bad news. Well, actually, that's what this report is about, isn't it? But seriously, I do. The good news is we woke up with the president this morning. The bad news is we woke up with the president this morning. Diving with sharks is easier than reading these headlines. Well, to be fair, diving with sharks is awesome. It is because my fabulous birthday present that I have this temerity to scratch the surface with Acumen Media. So join me as we get deep and dark. Well, if you've dived with bull sharks, you'll pretty much do anything. Farmgate has been hanging around like a noose around Cupcake's neck for almost a year now. I have to be honest, I've always been quite dismissive of this conversation because, in my opinion, the man is a billionaire, and if Uncle Cyril wants to hide his money in his sofa, that's really up to him. If he finds the loss he buried in polyester treasure negligible, again, that's up to him. But as it turns out, I was wrong all along, because the Prez had dollars in his sofa. The Benjamins, not the Randallas. That's the rub. That makes all the difference, according to our panel of 4 judges. They handed over a report that was thicker than the state capture report in what seemed to be a couple of weeks. Weeks? Maybe I wasn't paying attention. After the handover ceremony, as we do with these reports, the broadcast was spreading from station to station like an infection across the nation. The headlines went wild. Words like step aside, suspension, step down, and finally, and this was when our hearts sank, resignation. Now we were watching edge of your seat TV. Then he changed his mind and left us hanging. Quite literally, the speed of the story smacks of Zuma, that train crash speed. Though you know you can't stop it when they start to play, you've just got to get out of the way. Run. With over 500,000 results across 170 countries in 70 days, it's safe to say that Farmgate is our top story this week, and the president's reputation has tanked by 82% in a 7-day period. Questions for the audience, please. It's taken these concoctions of panels and judiciaries close to a decade to prosecute Zuma with 900 charges. Yet, ta-da! It took state capture to 4 years to present their books, and now it seems they can do it swiftly and with style. Ta-da! But it depends on your political alliances. I say this because all of you are reading was uncovered by Arthur, I'm rolling with the Zuma, Fraser. He's the guy who let Zuma out of prison on medical parole. Let's look at this from the perspective of the instigators. Nice word, hey? They're super smart and tighter than locked jaws of a pit bull. The millisecond the report was released, the terrible twins showed themselves. Terrible twins? No, man, not the Zuma Dudus. I'm talking about Nkosazana Stella Zuma and Lindiwe Medusa Sisulu. They were first out of the gate to shout for Cupcake to leave the room. What do you make of this, South Africa? If he resigns, I'm personally going to go and give him a lecture. And secondly, who on earth would step into his designer shoes? Naturally, it's probably Didi Mabuza, the D word, the man we don't talk about because we're so scared of him. Shoot first, ask questions later, that's the double D. He's so quiet that it's not normal. There's something super wicked there, and even this leb can't look too deep. There is a special ANC-NEC meeting today to address this now very pressing issue. Imagine how Uncle Cyril must be feeling walking into a cesspit. I read this headline on Eyewitness News that made me laugh. Mashatile has gone out to NEC members informing them that the virtual meeting will now be physical, held at Nasrec on Friday. My editor is going to have a field day with that sentence. I digress though. Back to couchless Cyril. Clinched and choked by his own step-aside rule, he's walking straight into Pandora's box. Another person waiting for today's NEC is Zwele Vibes Makize. with a big gluttonous smile on his face as he aligns himself with the terrible twins, both sets of them. What wicked games you play to make us feel this way. The politics of moving. On the day before the release of the Falafala report, our former president, terminally ill Zuma, was dancing up a storm at Nkandla, where the Shembe Church prayer vigil had congregated. Why a prayer vigil? I think it's because it's been ruled that he has to go to prison. Notice I didn't say go back to prison. He was never there in the first place. I digress. Now, when I say dancing, I'm not talking about a slow waltz here. I'm talking about a full-on Zulu dance, and he shied it like a boss. He was always a great dancing president, showerhead. The politics of dancing. The priests were there listening to his address. He told them how persecuted he was. He said that he never in the history of any country has a president been so persecuted. Does anyone buy this stuff? Well, if you could have seen the display, there was a massive congregation to pray for Zuma, and the very next day, our current president is served his IRP5 on a dirty plate stained with grubby fingerprints. The politics of dancing. Zuma, for a terminally ill man, has been remarkably busy. He had been seen dressed to kill with Shabir Sheikh, still alive too, that guy, at the opening of a restaurant called Zuma in Durbs. I reckon we should go in there and pinch the cutlery. It's the least we can do. Who's with me? Seriously though, my friends, what are we going to do about this? I see the DA are chip still. I think they're daunted by the idea that they might actually have a race. Right now, this DA hater thinks it's not such a bad idea. Now you know just how scared I am. Once a year, I have the daunting task of summarizing what happened over the 12 months in the media. An annual wrap of my ramblings and grumblings. It's a mammoth task, but I tell you what I've learned putting this together. Hindsight is definitely 20/20. It's so obvious you're going to kick yourself for sitting on your back end. It's out next week, so make sure you've subscribed. It's terrifying. It's a bad Stephen King novella. I mention it now because you may think that Janice Wallace is a news story, right? You're so wrong. He's been on our timeline all year. It's so orchestrated, it's ridiculous. We were played again. Janice Wallace murders a noble man with a moral code and a vision for a better future for all. Slain by Janice, who then served his time, and then we ruled to release him on parole. He's not even a South African resident. And so, to be fair, I was expecting Operation Dadula at the door. But no, he's meant to be serving his parole here in SA. Question. Do you get to leave prison if you killed Hani? Remember at the time our country was on a knife's edge for a change. My word, what have we lived through? Surely what he did was treason, and we should never be allowed in society again. Those are my thoughts, and I'm sure they're yours too. But within a few days of this news, Wallace was stabbed by one of his mates. Not one of the inmates, one of the mates that is an inmate. Something is off, something big, and it's not a rat this time. It's the politics of moving. I've been watching the most incredible series. It's called The 194 Inquiry, and where we're still trying to impeach Madam. You remember Busisiwe Makwebane, Madam to you and me. Dali and Mpofu must be rolling in cash, guys. Tell him to step away from the sofas, won't you? You'll remember he made a motion to the chair to recuse himself. That failed, but it took a good week. This week, he asked for all the evidence leaders to be removed. Why? Because they're racist. Side note, there's no white people amongst them. That didn't fly either, but it did incense the chair, and, my word, has this man got patience, he should be given a prize and a balloon. I mean, he sat there listening to insult after insult, side swipe after right hook, and he just let it roll off his back onto the floor, under his feet where it belonged all along. The show went on, and then we finally had the first witness, who wasn't Madam, of course, Public Protector. That might happen in 2028 when her term is completely over. Disgusting that she even bears the name Public Protector. Anything but. RET Protector. Public Neglector. Anyway, This first witness went on about a vendetta he had with some people in the PP's office over 3 terms, and not once did he mention Madam. Only right at the end when he said she'd helped him resolve his issue by basically speaking to him. Advocate Bauer, what a formidable force she is, asked one question after 3 hours of testimony that pulled the rat's nest apart. Did you find Madam Makwabane to be efficient at her job? He responded to say he hadn't really dealt with her, but that she was very efficient. Oi, Darlie, a word, Chana. Are you just going to pull randoms off the street to testify so that this can go on for years and years? Sounds like a great plan for your cash flow, but a very bad one that shouldn't be allowed in a judiciary as good as ours. The politics of fooling. My words are running out, and I feel like I've only just got started. So let's talk about diabetes. Apparently, it makes you a racist. That's right. When you have a low, there's a good chance you could start saying things like all black men should be killed and all black women should have their uteruses removed. What is this accosting my ears now? In case you missed it, not so pretty Belinda McGaw, since arrested, sent a voice note that put Penny Sparrow to shame. When asked why she said such despicable things, she said she was having a diabetic low. Having lived with a diabetic for many years and having seen lows, I can promise you that not one racial slur was heard. Ever. Can the courts move swiftly as they did on Palapala here, please? She really needs to be schooled in orange. You, my dear, need to apologize to the diabetic community, and then you have to serve time. Despicable. Time to speed up as my word count dries up. 16 days of activism was this week. The same week we released crime stats that showed 10,000 rapes and 7,000 murders that were recorded over the past 3 months. Yeah, that 16 days campaign thing is working. Listen, why don't you call those 4 furniture removal oaks with the Farmgate report? They seem to move swiftly enough. 16 days? Sack. South Africa has had Steinhoff in chunks and has now launched its own prosecution against the dirty thieves, so it's good. According to reports, FNB customers spent $3 billion on Black Friday. Those midnight mall bash-ins are over. We had COVID, guys, remember? We shop online now, so no need for bricks, mortar, queues, and trolleys. Crossing the waters, Trevor Noah is back and is opening a restaurant in South Africa. You do you, Trev. If cooking is now your thing, enjoy. There was a massive volcano eruption in Hawaii, and for the first time in as long as I can remember, there were riots, massive ones, in China. Elon Musk keeps breaking and then fixing his new toy. I may have to unfollow him because he tweets more than Trump, who, funnily enough, has not tweeted a thing since his account was reinstated. And then there's the World Cup. That's meant to be my cheer you up. It's been boring, and apart from Ghana, the footy has been poor. Maybe it's too hot, maybe it's not. Maybe because we know it's rigged. I don't know, but for the first time since as long as I can remember, there's no set of group tables printed on my fridge, and I couldn't tell Neymar from Messi. Hope you're enjoying it, though. I'm being a Karen, but once you've dived in the bull ring filled with Zambezi sharks, everything else is worth a shrug. The politics of dancing. Try to feel good. December is here. Finally. Just hide under the bed, but step away from the couch. I'm Tanya Curry, and you've just scratched the surface with Acumen Media.